Hello everyone, welcome back to Oni-chan. Today, Oni will bring you all a very romantic movie. The story is about an ordinary high school boy named Amane. He falls in love with Mihiru. She is an extremely popular girl at school, and many boys around her are attracted to her. After a chance encounter, the two had the opportunity to interact more. From a casual acquaintance, they gradually became closer. Eventually, feelings began to grow between them. However, both of them have their own hidden struggles. To find out whether they truly end up together or not, please stay tuned with Oni-chan. On a night of heavy rain, a boy named Amane was on his way home. He accidentally saw a beautiful girl sitting in the rain. At first, Amane was going to walk past her, but after thinking it over, Amane decided to approach the girl. He was curious why she was sitting alone in the rain. It turned out that they had known each other from before. However, this was the first time that Amane actually spoke to this girl. Her name is Mihiru. For now, she just wanted to sit there like that. But Amane was busy and had to go home. So he willingly offered his umbrella to Mihiru. And then, Amane simply walked away under the heavy rain, leaving Mihiru standing there in surprise. The next day, Amane went to school. As expected, Amane had caught a cold. At that moment, his friend named Akazawa noticed Amane's poor health condition. So Akazawa immediately asked him about it. After a while, he learned that even though it rained heavily last night, Amane had lent his umbrella to someone else. However, Amane wanted to keep the identity of the girl a secret. Akazawa was impressed by his kindness. It turned out Amane had already known Mihiru from before. At school, Mihiru was often called an angel by those around her. Not only was she excellent in class, but Mihiru was also great at sports. Even her personality was beloved by everyone. That's why all the boys at school paid attention to her. And there was one secret that Amane never revealed to anyone at school. After entering high school, Amane's next-door neighbor was none other than Mihiru. When Amane got home, he found Mihiru waiting for him. It turned out Mihiru wanted to thank Amane for the umbrella the day before. And that was also the reason why Amane got sick. So Mihiru decided to take care of him to repay the favor. As evening came, Amane suddenly woke up. Mihiru was by his side, watching over him. At that moment, Amane was about to check his temperature. Because his movements were too sudden, Mihiru felt shy and awkward about the situation. But that shyness only made her look even more adorable. A while later, Amane was surprised to find out that Mihiru could cook. But since Mihiru was living alone, of course she had to know these basic things. Mihiru even advised Amane that once he recovered, he should clean up his bedroom. Returning to the meal Mihiru had cooked, Amane was surprised at how delicious it was. Suddenly, he asked Mihiru about the other night, why she had been sitting alone in the rain like that. Amane thought maybe she had fought with her boyfriend, but Mihiru immediately denied it. She said she didn't have a boyfriend and didn't plan to have one either. Which left Amane quite surprised. He thought that since Mihiru was popular at school, she must have a lot of people who liked her. However, Mihiru wasn't the type to be careless. She could probably date many other boys. At that moment, Amane immediately apologized, because he didn't mean it that way. Even Mihiru felt sorry, since Amane got sick because of her. So the two of them quickly made up afterward. However, Amane felt confused when Mihiru realized she was at fault. So Amane tried to keep his distance this time, because he thought Mihiru might have felt really bothered, since she had to keep taking care of him like that. So if there wasn't anything important, Amane thought the best thing was for the two of them not to get involved with each other. The next morning, when Amane arrived at school, Akazawa asked how he was doing. Fortunately, Amane was feeling much better. So the two of them headed to class together. Suddenly, Amane passed by Mihiru's classroom. He kept staring at her. Even Akazawa noticed something was going on, but Amane quickly walked away afterward. As for him, Mihiru was like a beautiful flower in the sky. They could never hope to reach her. They could only admire her from afar. When night fell, Mihiru was standing out on her balcony. Then she happened to notice Amane's meager dinner. So a little while later, Mihiru prepared a meal for Amane. Because when she saw Amane living such a miserable life, it kept bothering her. The next day, Mihiru unexpectedly prepared another meal. This surprised Amane a lot. At first, he didn't intend to accept it. But because of Mahiru's sincerity, Amane had no choice but to take it. And from then on, his life started to become more interesting. A few days later, when Amane went to the nearby supermarket, he happened to run into Mahiru. After observing her for a while, he was surprised by how frugal she was, even though she lived on money sent by her parents. When the two of them headed back, Amane chivalrously helped Mahiru carry her groceries home. After that, she came over to Amane's place to get her food container back. However, Mahiru didn't know what he was doing. It turned out that Amane was planning to clean his apartment, but at the moment, he had no idea where to start. So Mahiru decided to help Amane out. She even guided him step by step. While Mahiru was focused on cleaning, she suddenly slipped and fell onto Amane. This made him feel flustered. After that, the two of them quickly got back to work. In the end, they managed to finish cleaning. Since the room was so messy, it took them quite a long time. At that point, Amane asked Mahiru if she'd like to have dinner with him, so he ordered food for delivery. Mahiru didn't understand why Amane kept staring at her, and that made Mahiru feel a bit embarrassed. While they were eating, they chatted comfortably with each other. Suddenly, Amane asked what Mahiru's intention was for giving him food every single day. It turned out she just wanted to share her cooking with someone. And that was all there was to it. Even Amane was surprised by that answer. The next day after school, Amane once again found Mahiru sitting alone under a tree. He was curious about what had happened, but Mahiru refused to tell him. After waiting for a while, Mahiru finally agreed to talk. It turned out she had been rescuing a cat stuck in a tree. After that, Mahiru got slightly injured because of the cat. At that moment, Amane understood the situation, so he quickly went to buy medical supplies. Amane's goal was to treat Mahiru's wound. He gently took care of her injury, which touched Mahiru deeply. In the end, Amane successfully finished treating the wound. Then he handed Mahiru his own pants, because he was worried that her legs might be exposed. And Amane gave her a piggyback ride home. On the way back, Mahiru kept expressing her gratitude for Amane's help that day. The next day at school, Akazawa teased Amane about the short pants he was wearing. It turned out that the pants Amane wore yesterday were the ones he had given to Mahiru. At that time, they had PE class. The girls were all excited at the sight of Kadawaki. He was considered the prince of the class, even though he was in the same class as Amane. The two of them rarely talked to each other. Suddenly, Amane noticed that Mahiru was staring at him. This made him feel flustered. When night fell, Mahiru took the initiative to bring food to Amane, and she also returned the pants she had borrowed the day before. Out of nowhere, Amane started admiring Mahiru, because she was liked by so many boys at school. He even gave her the nickname, Angel. But it seemed she wasn't very comfortable with that name. However, Mahiru was aware that she was cute, which surprised Amane with how confident she was. Then, when he looked at the lunchbox, Amane admired Mahiru's cooking skills. At that moment, he didn't know what to do. Suddenly, Amane thought that, since he had received so many meals from Mahiru, it would be best if he shared the cost with her. After that, Mahiru took the initiative. She said she would come over to Amane's place to cook. But Amane was afraid that might cause some issues. However, Mahiru saw that Amane was a safe person, so she decided to go through with the plan. Each of them would split the tasks and work together. Since Amane didn't know how to cook, he could only sit outside and watch. Deep down, Amane felt like he already had a wife. Suddenly, Mahiru became curious about Amane's silly thoughts. This made Amane feel flustered. In the end, Mahiru finally finished cooking. Amane was surprised by the luxurious meal on the table, and so, he ate it with great appetite, which made Mahiru feel happy as well. When dinner came to an end, Amane was the one in charge of washing the dishes. During that time, he kept worrying, because he was afraid of bothering Mahiru, since she came over so often to cook at his place. But the truth was, Mahiru really enjoyed cooking. Every time she saw Amane eat happily, she didn't feel bothered at all. However, she thought, if Amane kept being so concerned about it, then she might as well stop cooking for him. Suddenly, Amane refused that idea, because he also wanted to eat Mahiru's delicious food every day. That made Mahiru burst into laughter. A few days later, Amane had just finished his test. Akazawa quickly came running to ask how it went. But he already knew that Amane would definitely get a high score, since he was the top student in the class. At that moment, Akazawa's girlfriend appeared. Her name was Chitose. Suddenly, the two of them started acting affectionately, which made Amane feel very uncomfortable watching it. When night came, after Amane finished washing the dishes, he saw Mihiru checking her morning test scores. She had gotten a perfect score, which surprised Amane. But Mihiru also knew about Amane's excellent grades. It turned out that, in order for Amane to live alone, he had to maintain good academic performance. While Mihiru was getting ready to go home, she accidentally dropped her student ID card. At that moment, Amane quickly picked it up. And that's how he found out Mihiru's birthday was coming soon. So the next day, Amane was curious if Mihiru wanted anything. But she wished for something extremely simple, completely different from other high school girls, which surprised Amane. The following day at school, Amane asked Akazawa for advice about giving someone a birthday gift. But only Chitose could actually help with this matter. So she kept asking about the mysterious girl Amane was interested in. However, he refused to answer. Then Chitose suggested a lot of gift ideas to Amane. Eventually, he managed to buy something successfully, and Amane quickly brought it to give to Mihiru. But it seemed like she wasn't interested in her own birthday. Still, Amane gave her the present anyway. He treated it as a thank you gift, to show his gratitude for everything Mihiru had done for him. After she opened the gifts from the bag, Mihiru became genuinely happy, because it was the first time she had ever received a gift like that. It turned out Mihiru never told anyone her birthday, because she hated her own birthday. At that moment, Amane felt confused, but he didn't know the exact reason why. The next day, Amane's mother, named Shihoko, had traveled a long distance to visit him, but he wouldn't let Shihoko into the apartment. However, she was the one who rented this place, so Amane had no choice but to let Shihoko come in. It turned out she had come so suddenly, just to see how Amane was living. But before Shihoko arrived, Mihiru had already been at Amane's place. So when Shihoko suddenly appeared at the front door, it made both of them feel flustered. Because Amane was afraid that Shihoko would find out, so he told Mihiru to hide in his room. When Shihoko rushed to the door of the room, Amane's strange behavior gave him away. That's how Shihoko realized he was hiding something. So she opened the door and walked in. At that moment, Shihoko was extremely surprised, because she saw a strange girl dozing off in the room. Then Shihoko became delighted, since she thought the girl was Amane's girlfriend. But he immediately denied it. While the two of them were talking, Mihiru suddenly woke up. She was startled when Shihoko came closer, but Shihoko greeted her casually. However, Amane could tell that Mihiru was feeling very awkward. At that point, Shihoko was still misunderstanding their relationship, so Mihiru tried her best to explain clearly. After Shihoko understood everything, it seemed like she was trying to match them together. But the result only made both of them even more embarrassed. After that, Shihoko asked for Mihiru's contact information, and then she returned home. Although Mihiru didn't mind, Amane was worried his mom might text and bother Mihiru. At that moment, Mihiru opened up. She said she could see how much Shihoko cherished Amane. Shihoko was energetic, yet also very gentle. That made Mihiru really fond of her. The next day at school, Amane checked the results of the recent test. Everyone admired Mihiru's intelligence. However, it was all thanks to her quiet efforts. That night, Mihiru was surprised when she received a sweet cake from Amane. It was his gift to congratulate her for ranking first. At that moment, she shared a piece of the cake with Amane, and he fed a piece back to Mihiru, which made her feel extremely embarrassed. Later at school, Chitose and the others wanted to have a Christmas party at Amane's place, but he immediately refused. At that point, Chitose didn't understand why she was rejected, so she thought it was because Amane had a girlfriend. Since a few days ago, he had bought a stuffed animal as a gift. However, Amane denied that. He said it was just a present that he planned to give to his neighbor. So Chitose kept trying to persuade Amane, but he was still thinking it over. Until that night, when he was at home, Amane asked about Mihiru's schedule for Christmas Day. However, she thought she would be spending it alone, because all of her friends already had someone to spend it with. Suddenly, Amane invited Mihiru, saying he wanted to spend Christmas together with her. which made Mihiru a little shy. And so, the holiday finally arrived. Akazawa and his girlfriend came to Amane's place to eat. Chitose had found out that many boys at school had invited Mihiru out today, but she turned them all down because she had other plans. However, Amane didn't seem to care much about that. Suddenly, Chitose joked that maybe Mihiru was actually Amane's neighbor, which startled him. At that moment, snow began falling outside, so they all ran out to enjoy the view. Unexpectedly, Mihiru was there too, which left everyone frozen in place. Chitose was shocked by Mihiru and Amane's presence together. It turned out they really were neighbors. Akazawa then connected all the dots, and immediately understood what was going on. The two of them teased Mihiru and Amane together. But Amane thought, if this secret got out to others, then Amane was certain things would get troublesome if word got out. So he asked Akazawa and Chitose to keep it a secret. However, Chitose was still surprised, because she didn't expect to get this close to Mihiru. She admired Mihiru's beauty, which made Mihiru a little embarrassed. After that, everyone slowly warmed up to Mihiru. Luckily, Amane managed to help ease the situation for her. After the party ended, Amane immediately apologized to Mihiru for what had just happened. However, she said she was actually very happy, because she had never had anyone like that around her before. A while later, the two of them sat down for dinner, prepared by Mihiru. Amane was overjoyed to eat the meal she had cooked, which made Mihiru feel very grateful. At that moment, Amane got curious. Why was Mihiru so good at cooking? It turned out that someone had taught her. And that person was someone Mihiru greatly admired, because the food they made always carried the flavor of happiness. Suddenly, Amane thought that Mihiru's cooking had that same flavor of happiness too, which completely stunned her. After that, the two of them played games together. Amane enthusiastically guided Mihiru through it. However, the two of them accidentally brushed against each other, but they cheerfully continued playing the game. A while later, Amane gave Mihiru a wallet, because she had won the game earlier. At that moment, Mihiru was completely surprised by Amane's taste. Suddenly, she brushed Amane's hair aside, because she wanted to see his face more clearly. And then Amane responded. He said he wanted to see Mihiru's eyes clearly too. The two of them stared into each other's eyes, unable to look away. After that, Amane received a gift from Mihiru as well. At that moment, Amane noticed something. Mihiru's expression was much softer than when they first met. Amane felt much better than before, all because of Mihiru's incredibly cute smile. That made her feel shy because of his comment. She even stopped Amane, not allowing him to say anything more. In the end, the two of them stepped out onto the balcony to enjoy the view. After spending 2 months together, Amane truly felt deeply grateful to Mihiru, and Mihiru felt the same way. The next day, Amane grew worried when Mihiru came down with a mild fever, but she said she was still doing okay. However, Amane refused to accept that. At this point, Mihiru was being extremely stubborn, so Amane picked her up and gently carried her to bed so she could rest. He stayed by her side to take care of her. Then Amane held Mihiru's hand tightly, and only let go after she had fallen asleep. The next day, he continued visiting Mihiru's house just to take care of her. Mihiru was truly happy because it was the first time someone had ever taken care of her like that. After Christmas, Amane and Mihiru welcomed the new year together. However, Amane felt a bit strange about spending New Year's Eve with someone else. Since Mihiru was busy preparing food for the holiday, she accidentally fell asleep on Amane's shoulder, so he gently carried her to bed. The next morning, Amane walked into the room. He thought Mihiru looked absolutely adorable while she was sleeping. He couldn't help but stare at her. He even reached out and touched her cheek. Then Mihiru suddenly woke up. She was completely flustered when she saw Amane sitting right beside her. So Amane quickly explained what had happened the night before. A moment later, Mihiru curiously asked. Mihiru asked why Amane always liked touching her cheeks like that. Her question caught Amane completely off guard. He froze and didn't know how to answer. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. It turned out to be Amane's parents, who had come to visit. Shihoko was thrilled to see Mihiru again. Amane's father, named Shuto, also came along. He expressed his gratitude to Mihiru because she had been taking care of Amane all this time. But Amane had also been caring for Mihiru in return, which reassured Shuto. Knowing the two of them got along so well, Shihoko felt truly happy seeing her son growing close to such a lovely girl. She even admitted she had planned this all along, wanting everyone to visit the shrine together for the new year. A while later, after Amane finished changing, Shuto looked at his outfit and asked how Amane had been doing since moving here. Perhaps Amane had some bad memories from his old school, but now, he seemed more at ease and comfortable. Around this time, Mihiru appeared in a traditional outfit that Shihoko had personally prepared for her. Amane couldn't take his eyes off her. He thought she looked absolutely adorable and incredibly beautiful, like a true traditional beauty. When Mihiru heard his compliment, she was extremely embarrassed. Then Mihiru also whispered into Amane's ear. "You looked really cool today," she said. When they arrived at the shrine, everyone around was looking at the two of them. After that, Mihiru and Amane prayed together. Everyone continued with the traditional activities. And then, as night fell, they returned home. Today was a day when Mihiru felt truly happy. Perhaps she had come to understand a little bit of what happiness feels like. Then, without thinking, Amane gently patted Mihiru's head, which left her completely confused about what was happening. However, if Amane did that to many girls, Mihiru thought it wouldn't be appropriate. But Amane assured her that he only did it with Mihiru, and no one else. This made her feel incredibly flustered. So Mihiru suddenly ran straight home. The next day, because Amane's parents had an unexpected errand, he and Mihiru saw them off together. In class, everyone was gossiping about Mihiru. There was a rumor going around that she had a boyfriend, because someone had seen Mihiru holding hands with a boy during the New Year shrine visit. At that moment, Amane, who was nearby, also overheard it. Meanwhile, Akazawa was teasing him. As evening came, Amane informed Mihiru about the situation. The rumor had already spread throughout the school. This made both of them extremely worried. So now, they only had one option left. That was to wait for the rumor to die down. Only then could things return to normal. But Mihiru was puzzled. Why would everyone think they were a couple? Just because they held hands once? However, Amane denied the idea. From Amane's perspective, someone like him could never be Mihiru's boyfriend. But Mihiru didn't agree with that. She immediately got angry, because Amane shouldn't belittle himself like that. To Mihiru, Amane was a kind person. He was gentle and caring toward others. When Amane heard Mihiru's words, he became flustered, and Mihiru felt deeply embarrassed by what she had just said. A few days later, Chitose came over to Amane's house, because she wanted to ask for his opinion about a gift. She wanted to surprise Akazawa on Valentine's Day. Back in middle school, Chitose used to make chocolates to give away. But now that they were high school students, Chitose wanted to do something a little more special. Finally, Valentine's Day arrived. At school, Kadawaki received lots of chocolates from the girls. This made the other boys in class incredibly jealous. Then Chitose gave gifts to both Akazawa and Amane. When evening came, Amane tried the chocolate that Chitose had given him at school. However, it tasted really strange, and the flavor left Amane quite traumatized. A while later, Amane was surprised to receive a gift from Mihiru. Since he didn't like sweets, Mihiru had chosen something easier for him to eat, and she thanked him for always helping her. After that, Amane smiled at Mihiru's cute gift. In class, Kadawaki approached Amane to thank him. This made Akazawa curious, because he had no idea what had happened between them. It turned out that Amane had helped Kadawaki with a few things the day before. After school, Amane went straight home. Mihiru had already gone home earlier, so Amane thanked her for the gift from the previous day. To him, that gift was really adorable. At that moment, Amane didn't know how he should return the favor. But Mihiru thought he didn't necessarily have to. However, since Amane was a boy, it would be best if he responded to Mihiru's feelings. So Amane decided he would wait to find out what kind of gift she liked. Then he would use that to choose something for Mihiru. At that point, she asked about Amane's birthday. But when he revealed it, Mihiru suddenly got angry. It turned out they had already known each other during that time. Yet Amane hadn't said anything. According to Amane, he thought they weren't that close back then. Besides, Mihiru had never asked about it before. So Amane didn't dare bring up his birthday. After hearing his explanation, Mihiru firmly said that she would definitely celebrate his birthday properly this year. A few days later, Amane went to a jewelry store. He wanted to buy something as a gift for Mihiru, so he asked the store clerk for advice. When evening came, Mihiru was completely surprised by Amane's appearance. He had carefully styled his hair and looked neat and tidy. And his outfit was neat and well put together. Then Amane gave Mihiru a present. His intention was to return her thoughtful gesture. It was an adorable bracelet. Right away, Mihiru asked Amane to help her put it on. So he nervously followed her request. And the bracelet truly suited Mihiru perfectly. Amane was stunned by her natural beauty in that moment. A few days later, Akazawa and Amane went out together. After hearing Amane's story, Akazawa was genuinely happy for him. Because Amane was finally experiencing moments of happiness. Even though they hadn't spent much time together yet, Akazawa had already noticed positive changes in Amane. That night, when Amane returned home, Mihiru was wearing a kitchen apron. Amane thought she looked just like his wife. Then Mihiru came over and started caring for Amane, which left him flustered and confused by the situation. The next morning at school, Akazawa brought several sets of clothes to class, because he wanted to stay over at Amane's house for a few days. Earlier that morning, Akazawa had gotten into a fight with his father, so Amane agreed to let him stay. After school, the two of them went home together. Akazawa met Mihiru again, so he teased her with a few playful remarks, which made Amane immediately stomp on Akazawa's foot, because Amane didn't want him to cause any trouble. At that point, Akazawa apologized, since he might have been bothering everyone. But Mihiru understood, and said it wasn't a big deal. Then it was time for Mihiru to cook dinner. Akazawa was amazed by her cooking skills. While everyone was eating, Akazawa observed many things. Before going to sleep, Akazawa shared his thoughts. He believed that Amane liked Mihiru, because Amane was always so gentle with her. Everyone at school thought that Amane was a boring and blunt person. He often spoke coldly to others. But to Akazawa, that was just a shallow judgment based on appearances. And Mihiru had seen the real Amane underneath. That's what brought the two of them closer. It made Akazawa really happy, because Mihiru believed in who Amane truly was. The next day, Chitose also came to Amane's house, because she was jealous that only Akazawa got to eat food cooked by Mihiru herself. The noisy antics of the Akazawa couple made Amane feel a bit anxious. However, Mihiru felt truly happy, because she got to spend time with everyone. After Chitose tasted Mihiru's cooking, she thought it was absolutely amazing. Chitose admired Mihiru's cooking talent. However, at school, Mihiru seemed like a boring person, because she always stayed quiet and just observed everything. But right now, Mihiru looked incredibly cute. Chitose thought this was the real Mihiru. And of course, Chitose liked this version of Mihiru much more. That evening, Chitose suddenly sent a message to Amane. The surprise was a photo of Mihiru holding a teddy bear, which completely surprised Amane with how adorable she looked. At that moment, Akazawa also snapped a photo of Amane's reaction as a keepsake. A few days later, Amane happened to run into a strange woman. She kept saying things that deeply hurt Mihiru. It turned out that woman was her mother, named Sa-yo, but Mihiru was already used to it, because Sa-yo had always treated her that way since the past. She deeply hated Mihiru, so at that moment, Amane wanted to stay by her side, and Amane tightly held Mihiru's hand to comfort her. After that, Mihiru told him everything. Her parents hadn't gotten married out of love, but because of family circumstances. Sometime later, Mihiru was born. However, her parents never really took care of her. In reality, she had been raised by the housekeeper. So from childhood to now, Mihiru rarely saw her parents' faces. Even though she tried her best to be a good girl, she studied hard and excelled at school. But her parents never paid her any attention. No matter how hard she tried, it was useless. Still, Mihiru kept trying. Sometimes she thought she was just being foolish. And now, her parents were only waiting until she entered university, so they could divorce immediately afterward. Mihiru was truly shocked when Sa-yo told her directly that giving birth to her was a mistake. That's why Mihiru began to abandon herself. She sat alone in the rain, without even realizing it. After hearing Mihiru's painful confession, perhaps Amane finally understood why Mihiru had grown up with the personality she had. Mihiru had always been good at enduring things, and she didn't want others to see her vulnerable side. At that moment, Amane pulled Mihiru into his arms to comfort her. If she wanted to cry, then she should just cry. Because Amane knew Mihiru had endured terrible things. She must have suffered so much. And so, Mihiru broke down in tears. She then asked Amane to please keep all of this a secret. Right now, Mihiru didn't know what to do next, because she had always acted like an angel, just to make others like her. But even so, her parents still didn't care. To Mihiru, her true self wasn't like that at all. In truth, Mihiru didn't think she was cute. In fact, she saw herself as both timid and selfish. She believed she had nothing for anyone to like. But Amane felt differently. He truly liked Mihiru. Of course, there were times when she wasn't exactly cute. But aside from those moments, Amane found Mihiru very adorable. He even wanted to protect her, because Amane liked her honesty. To Amane, right now, Mihiru shouldn't belittle herself, because the person who sees and loves her true self is right here. That made Mihiru blush and feel shy. She was touched by Amane's sincerity. But at the same time, she felt embarrassed, because Amane had seen her in such a pitiful state. Then Amane told Mihiru that she was no longer alone, because he was by her side now. And she also had his parents and Akazawa's couple. There were many people who truly cared for Mihiru. After that, she asked if the two of them could go for a walk. They were about to begin a new school term, so surely, many things would start to change. Suddenly, Mihiru hugged Amane from behind. She thanked him for everything she had received from him. It felt wonderful to have everyone by her side. Just then, cherry blossoms began to bloom and fall. Although Mihiru didn't really like that flower. Or rather, she didn't like spring, or any important holidays, because she had always been alone. No one had ever held her hand or walked beside her. But now, Mihiru had Amane by her side. She had started to like cherry blossoms, just a little more. A few days later, at school, the new school term had begun. Fortunately, everyone ended up in the same class. Suddenly, when Amane saw Kadawaki, he unintentionally recalled some unpleasant memories, which caused Amane's expression to darken. Later at home, Mihiru was curious about Amane's gloomy face, but he refused to explain. For some reason, Mihiru suddenly wanted to touch Amane's hair, so he reluctantly allowed it. In truth, Amane actually really liked it too. He thought maybe Mihiru was showing her care for him. This time, she was curious about how Amane felt regarding their new class. He was surprised that Mihiru ended up in the same class. Seeing the surprise on his face made Mihiru genuinely happy. However, Amane felt they needed to be cautious, because if they acted too close at school, others might discover the secret between them. Suddenly, Mihiru pinched Amane's cheek, because she disagreed with him on that. Although Mihiru understood his reasoning, her emotions wouldn't let her stay quiet. Still, Mihiru agreed to go along with it, for now. After that, Amane slowly drifted off to sleep, while still resting on Mihiru's lap. So when Amane woke up, he was startled, because Mihiru was staring directly at him. It turned out he looked so cute while sleeping, that Mihiru couldn't help but watch him the whole time. However, Amane felt a bit strange about it. The next day, he went out to win a stuffed animal, so he could give it to Mihiru, which made her incredibly happy. After seeing the look on Mihiru's face, Amane couldn't help but laugh, which made Mihiru feel embarrassed. Then Amane gently patted her head. At that moment, Mihiru thought to herself, she kept receiving so many things from Amane. Gifts, kindness, and even his warm presence. Yet she hadn't done anything in return. That thought began to weigh on her. Although to Amane, it didn't matter at all. But if Mihiru truly wanted to give him something, Amane said he'd love to taste a special homemade dish. So Mihiru started focusing, determined to cook Amane's favorite meal. In the end, she was able to satisfy that wish, just as Amane had hoped for. Being able to eat delicious food every day was his happiness. After receiving a compliment from Amane, Mihiru felt genuinely happy. At school, since everyone was now in the same class, Kadawaki had the chance to get closer to Amane's group. But Akazawa started to think, it seemed like Kadawaki was trying to approach Amane on purpose. Turns out, Kadawaki simply thought Amane was a good person, so he wanted to become friends with everyone. He wasn't interested in anything beyond that. At that moment, Amane found it a bit strange, because it was the first time that someone had genuinely wanted to be friends with him. Suddenly, Amane noticed something. Mihiru was quietly observing their conversation. Later that day, when Amane got home, he sensed that Mihiru was sulking about something. She seemed more irritated than usual. If it was his fault, then he would apologize right away. But it turned out that wasn't the case at all. The truth was, Mihiru was just being a bit petty. She felt it was unfair toward Kadawaki, because since they were both guys, they could talk freely. But for Mihiru, that wasn't something she could do. Even though she tried to endure it, deep down, she felt incredibly frustrated. However, for someone like Mihiru to talk so naturally with someone as plain as Amane would surely attract attention from their classmates. At that moment, Mihiru disagreed, because Amane kept putting himself down again. Mihiru simply wanted him to be more confident. But if Mihiru acted too forward all of a sudden, then Amane would definitely get flustered. Still, Mihiru decided she would do her best. The next morning at school, since the teacher asked everyone to form study groups, Mihiru took the initiative to approach Amane and form a group. But that ended up making the boys in the class jealous. Meanwhile, Chitose couldn't stop laughing gleefully, because it was all her idea in the first place. At that moment, Mihiru observed, Amane and Akazawa seemed to be getting along really well, which made Mihiru wish she could be like that with him too. After that, it was time for the cooking class. Amane and Mihiru worked together in perfect sync. Chitose even thought they looked like they had just gotten married. A while later, Mihiru's group finished their assigned cooking evaluation. In the end, they were finally ready to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Suddenly, the group next to them started arguing a little. In the chaos, they accidentally put Mihiru in danger. Fortunately, Amane managed to catch her in time. This caused everyone around them to focus all their attention on the two of them. Not long after that, everyone was given a long break. Mihiru had no idea what to do with all her free time. Even Amane felt the same way. Although getting time off was nice, neither of them had anything in particular to do. That's when Mihiru took the initiative. She suggested that they should go out and do some shopping together. So Amane immediately agreed. However, Mihiru still hadn't decided where she wanted to go. She honestly hadn't made up her mind yet. Mihiru also didn't know what kind of places Amane liked. Since they rarely went out together, Mihiru wanted to make sure they both had fun. That's when Amane came up with an idea. He said he wanted to visit a cat cafe. He thought it would be less awkward if they went together. After a moment, Mihiru agreed. Then she said she also wanted to go to an amusement park, because Mihiru had never been to one before. And just like that, the two of them finalized their plans, which made Mihiru look forward to the holiday even more. Several days later, when everyone had started their vacation, Chitose came over to Amane's house for a cooking lesson. This time, Mihiru was going to teach her wholeheartedly. But Amane warned Mihiru, telling her that it would be best to be cautious of Chitose's cooking skills. Because even now, Amane was still haunted by the taste of the chocolate that Chitose had once given him. But Chitose just laughed out loud. It turned out that chocolate was just a prank. However, Amane still pleaded with Chitose, begging her to at least make something he could eat. In the end, Chitose agreed, but Amane still couldn't shake off a bit of uneasiness. At that moment, Mihiru remained calm and composed. She kindly and carefully guided Chitose step by step. Out of nowhere, Amane ended up falling asleep. By the afternoon, Amane suddenly woke up, and the person sitting right beside him was Mihiru, which completely shocked Amane. Meanwhile, Chitose was sitting across from them, watching their current situation unfold. Chitose was surprised by how close the two of them had become. After that, she couldn't stop teasing them, which made Amane visibly uncomfortable. Finally, Amane got to taste the food. However, he was still a bit nervous about Chitose's cooking skills. But Mihiru assured him that the food was perfectly fine. So Amane felt relieved enough to give it a try. And as it turned out, the food was really delicious. Chitose was overjoyed. After that, she thanked Mihiru for teaching her how to cook. When only the two of them were left at home, Mihiru asked Amane a curious question. Between a pure and innocent type, and a mature and grown-up style, which one would he prefer? After hesitating for a while, Amane finally answered, saying that the innocent type might suit Mihiru better. So Mihiru decided she would try to change her style. The next day, Amane was completely surprised when he saw Mihiru's new and different appearance. Amane thought that it suited her very well. Mihiru really did look even cuter than usual, which made her feel flustered by his words. After that, the two of them held hands and went on a date. However, they still hadn't officially started a relationship yet. When they arrived at the cat cafe, Mihiru looked excited while playing with the adorable kittens. Even the drinks caught her attention in the same way. In one adorable moment of Mihiru, Amane quickly snapped a photo of her cute expression. After that, the two of them went shopping at a clothing store. While Mihiru was browsing through the clothes, two unfamiliar girls suddenly approached Amane. It seemed like they were really into him. But right at that moment, Mihiru showed up, and she immediately led Amane away to the amusement area. Mihiru tried really hard to win a stuffed bear from the claw machine. Her goal was to give it as a gift to Amane. Suddenly, Kadawaki appeared. He assumed that Mihiru already had a boyfriend, but that boy was actually Amane. So Mihiru awkwardly explained the situation to him. Eventually, Kadawaki understood everything. Mihiru begged him to keep this whole thing a secret. Surprisingly, Kadawaki agreed right away. He said he wasn't the type to gossip anyway. Plus, he didn't want to ruin his friendship with Amane over something so trivial. After all, it had taken them a long time to become close friends. In the end, everything was settled. Amane and Mihiru headed home together. The next day, Amane hung out with some of his friends. At that time, Kadawaki seemed curious about what had happened the day before. But Amane refused to answer. So Akazawa revealed everything to him. That matter would be exposed sooner or later anyway. So it was better to come clean early. This time, Kadawaki was certain. Mihiru really liked Amane. Because to Kadawaki, there's no girl who would naturally come to someone's house to cook if she didn't like that guy at all. So Kadawaki directly asked Amane whether he truly liked Mihiru or not. And that's when Amane admitted it. Mother's Day was coming up. So Amane planned to send flowers and a few small gifts home. At that moment, Mihiru grew curious about why Amane decided to live away from home, especially since he didn't know anything about housework. But for many reasons, Amane didn't want to live in his hometown anymore, simply because there were people he didn't want to see, which made Mihiru even more curious. However, Amane was doing well now, and all those things were in the past. But Mihiru knew that something unpleasant must have happened to Amane. Although he was afraid Mihiru would worry, Amane eventually shared the story of his past. Back then, he was fortunate to come from a good family. Amane's parents always cherished him. However, at that time, he wasn't aware of just how lucky he was. And Amane rarely ever doubted others. In truth, he was a simple and straightforward person. That's why people could easily take advantage of him. Later, he witnessed his old friends badmouthing him behind his back. So gradually, he stopped trusting anyone. Because of that, Amane decided to leave his hometown, so that he could start anew, in a place where no one knew anything about him. After Mihiru understood Amane's situation, she was furious with those terrible people. But then, Mihiru comforted Amane. What she could do was accept his pain, and be there to support him. He could completely rely on Mihiru, just like she had once relied on him. The next day, while Mihiru was in class, her friends found out a rumor that Mihiru had gone shopping with a boy at the mall, which left Amane completely frozen when he heard it. However, Mihiru didn't deny the rumor. But to her, he was just a normal close friend. Meanwhile, Amane looked like he was about to die, which made Chitose incredibly curious. It turned out Amane had gone for a jog that morning, since he normally didn't exercise much. Eventually, everyone received the midterm exam schedule. So when Amane was at home, he told Mihiru that tomorrow, he would be studying with Akazawa and Kadawaki. Mihiru wanted to cook for everyone. At that moment, she asked if she could join them. So Amane immediately agreed. Chitose would be joining too, since she had begged Mihiru for help. If Chitose didn't get a high score this time, she was afraid her parents would be angry. The next morning, everyone gathered at Amane's house. Kadawaki was surprised. He saw how natural Mihiru looked, being in Amane's home. After that, they all studied hard together. In the days that followed, They finally received their test results. Amane was surprised because his rank had improved significantly. As for Mihiru, she still ranked first. Later, when the two were at home, Amane happened to see Mihiru dozing off on the chair. At that moment, he gently touched her cheek. Amane was completely smitten by how adorable she looked. However, it was already late, so Amane walked Mihiru home. But as soon as she got to her room, she suddenly woke up. After that, Amane stayed until she fell asleep again. The next morning, Mihiru remembered what happened the night before. So she shyly asked Amane something, whether he had seen any photo when he entered her room. But Amane said he didn't see anything, which made Mihiru breathe a sigh of relief. Because on her desk, there was a photo frame, and in it was a picture of Amane. But yesterday, Amane had been a bit surprised. Because after Mihiru suddenly woke up, she asked to sleep next to Amane. At that moment, Mihiru became flustered. She didn't think she'd ever do something like that. Normally, Mihiru would never imagine doing so. It was just that she felt safe when Amane was by her side. But to Amane, no matter how close the friendship is, it's still not okay to casually let someone stay over. After that, Mihiru walked away. The next day, before Mihiru left for school, she asked Amane to confirm something. Since she had just switched to her summer uniform, she was curious whether it looked weird or not. However, after Amane saw Mihiru's bare feet, he instantly turned away in embarrassment. This made Mihiru misunderstand, thinking that her feet were so ugly that even Amane didn't want to look. But Amane explained, what he meant was that Mihiru shouldn't show them off so casually, because guys would stare at them. But Mihiru was confused, since when she was injured before, Amane had already seen everything. This time, he couldn't answer, so Amane changed the subject. He said Mihiru's uniform today was very cute, and it really suited her. That made Mihiru very happy. At school, the girls had switched to their summer uniforms, which made the boys in class unable to take their eyes off them. After school, Akazawa and Chitose went on a date together. Meanwhile, Kadawaki and Amane stayed behind in the classroom to help Mihiru with a few errands. However, someone noticed how close the three of them were, which made the other girls extremely jealous. They started talking badly about Mihiru behind her back, but everyone heard what they said. That evening, after returning home, Amane was still bothered by it. But Mihiru felt differently, because she had already expected this to happen. Even though Mihiru was always surrounded by people, she knew not everyone truly liked her. Those who were jealous of her, she believed it was because of her appearance, and not because of who she really was inside. Even Amane had thought so. When he first met Mihiru, Amane assumed she was cold and unapproachable. But after spending some time together, Amane came to realize that Mihiru was incredibly sincere, and she was shyer than he had imagined. As for Mihiru, she felt the same. To her, Amane was a really cool guy. Mihiru saw many wonderful qualities in Amane. The atmosphere between them had become more intimate. Then, Mihiru suddenly kissed Amane, and she left right away, leaving Amane completely flustered. The next morning, when Amane arrived at school, he saw Mihiru, but things felt awkward between them. Akazawa noticed it right away. So during break time, Akazawa directly asked Amane about what was going on between the two of them. However, Amane still couldn't bring himself to confess, because he was still insecure about himself. Even Akazawa was at a loss for what to do. But both Akazawa and Kadawaki promised they would try to cheer Amane up. When Amane was at home, Mihiru took the initiative to apologize for what she did the day before. But Amane didn't know why Mihiru had done that in the first place. It turned out she wanted to get back at Amane, because he always teased her. But right now, Amane was still shy. He couldn't say what he really wanted to. And so, several days passed. Their school held a sports festival. So Amane grew curious. He wondered what event Mihiru would be joining. After Mihiru revealed it, Amane was surprised that they were in the same event. A while later, he started acting more affectionately toward Mihiru. Even though Amane tried hard to keep his distance, it quickly went back to how things were. Eventually, the school's sports festival began. Akazawa didn't expect Amane to be this excited, because he thought Amane would hate it. But this time, Amane had some free time, and he got to join the event he actually wanted. So Amane didn't dislike the festival as much as before. Then it was Chitosa's turn to compete. She ran incredibly fast, surprising everyone. Next, it was Amane's turn, and Mihiru was also participating. During the race, Mihiru took the initiative and grabbed Amane's hand to run to the finish line. That immediately caught everyone's attention. The boys were extremely jealous of Amane. In the end, everyone realized that Mihiru's special person was Amane. When they returned to the classroom, the boys in the class approached Amane. They kept asking questions out of curiosity about Amane and Mihiru's relationship. At that moment, Amane didn't hide anything. He answered all of their questions honestly. But they still couldn't accept it. Luckily, Mihiru showed up just in time. She quickly stepped in to help Amane. However, they were still jealous, wondering why Mihiru could like someone like Amane. Then she suddenly got angry. Mihiru thought that everyone only liked her for her looks. But Amane wasn't like that. He accepted the real her. And because of that, the two of them became closer. With that answer, Mihiru left everyone around them speechless. She then pointed out many good things about Amane. He was a kind person. His calm demeanor and warm nature were also wonderful. And he had many other good qualities too. When Mihiru was struggling, Amane was the one who stayed by her side, cared for her, and helped her. After that, the boys felt ashamed of their behavior. So they quickly walked away. When Amane got home, Mihiru wanted to say something to Amane. She sincerely apologized for what she said that morning. It might have caused some unfriendly gazes to be directed at Amane. However, he understood why Mihiru acted that way. In fact, Amane wasn't angry at all. Instead, he was truly grateful to Mihiru. Because back then, Amane had been incredibly shy. He was afraid of facing everything. So he chose to run away. He also felt guilty for pretending not to notice Mihiru's feelings. After hearing Amane's sincere words, Mihiru felt genuinely happy. And then, Amane gently pulled her into a hug. It was the first time he had seriously liked someone. He truly cherished this feeling. Amane didn't know when it started, but he had always wanted to know everything about Mihiru, and treasured her from the bottom of his heart. It was the first time he had ever wanted that. At that moment, Amane spoke up. He said he wanted to officially date Mihiru. And she said yes. They shared a warm, heartfelt embrace. Their love story had just begun to bloom. Amane firmly believed that he would truly make Mihiru happy. He was determined to make it happen. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support Oni-chan in the next videos. Thank you so much for watching. Love you always.